At 2:30 in the morning, a 9-year-old girl walked out of her warm bed into a February rainstorm, alone. She walked away from her house, away from her parents, away from everyone who loved her. 2 truck drivers saw her on a dark highway around 4 a.m. When one of them turned around to help, she ran off the road into the woods. No one has seen her since. She had packed a book bag before she left, like she was going somewhere, like someone was waiting. Asha Jaquilla Degree was 9 years old. She lived with her mother, her father, and her older brother in Shelby, North Carolina, a small mill town near the South Carolina line. By every account, she was a careful child. A 4th grader at Falston Elementary, a girl who was afraid of the dark, afraid of dogs. The kind of kid who did not like to be alone in a room, let alone alone on a road at night. On the night of February 13th, 2000, the power went out across the neighborhood after a car wreck knocked down a line. It came back a little after midnight. Her father, Harold, checked on the children twice. Once when the lights returned, again around 2:30 in the morning. Both times, Asha was in her bed, asleep or close enough to it. At 2:30, everything in that house was ordinary. A family asleep on a school night. The rain coming down outside. By the time the alarm went off for school, one of the beds was empty, and nothing about Shelby would ever be ordinary again. Sometime after her father's last check, Asha got dressed. She put on a white shirt and white pants. She picked up a backpack she had packed herself. Then she walked out the front door into the storm and started down the road. Think about what that takes. She was 9. It was the middle of the night. It was raining hard and it was cold. She was scared of the dark, and she walked on foot down Highway 18, a 2-lane road with no sidewalk and almost no light. Her mother, Jaquilla, woke before dawn to get the kids ready for school. She went to wake Asha. The bed was empty, the backpack was gone. So was Asha's coat. They searched the house. They searched the yard. They called her name into the rain. And then they called the police. There was no fight the night before, no punishment, no reason anyone could name for a happy 4th grader to leave a warm house in a downpour. She did not run from something inside that home. The question was what she was walking toward. She did not vanish from her bed. For a few hours, she was out there, and a few people saw her. Around 4 in the morning, roughly a mile from her house, 2 truck drivers passed a small figure walking along Highway 18 in the rain. A child in pale clothes, alone in the dark. One of them could not let it go. He turned his truck around to come back for her. And when his headlights swung toward her, she did something that has haunted this case for 26 years. She ran off the side of the road, into a wooded area, away from the lights, away from the man trying to help her. That was the last confirmed sighting of Asha Degree. Near a shed along that stretch of road, searchers would later find a few things that may have been hers. A pencil, a marker, a Mickey Mouse hairbow, small markers of a small person scattered in the wet grass. Then the trail simply ended. A 9-year-old, on a known road seen by witnesses, walking in one direction. And after that, wood line, nothing. No body, no clothes, no sign of where she went or who she went with. By the morning of February 14th, the search was on, and it was enormous. Hundreds of volunteers. Bloodhounds, helicopters, the FBI. They walked the fields and the woods along Highway 18, grid by grid in the cold. But the rain that Asha walked into had done its work. It washed the roads. It scattered the scent. The dogs that tried to follow her lost the trail within about a mile of the shed where her things were found. Days became weeks. The reward climbed. Her face went up on flyers and billboards. And the evening news, a smiling school portrait that the whole state would come to know by heart. And still, nothing, no confirmed sighting after that wood line. A child does not just dissolve into the dark. Someone, somewhere, knew what happened on that road. They just weren't saying. For a year and a half, that was the whole case. A girl who walked into the rain and never walked out. Until a man with a shovel, 26 miles away, hit something buried in the dirt. In August of 2001, a construction worker was clearing land off Highway 18 near Morganton. In Burke County, more than 26 miles north of Shelby, buried in the ground, double wrapped in 2 black trash bags, he found a child's backpack. It was Asha's. Sit with that for a second. The last place anyone saw her, she was on foot, running into the woods. And 18 months later, her bag turns up sealed in plastic and buried, more than 26 miles away, in the opposite direction from where she was headed. A 9-year-old did not walk 26 miles in the rain, bury her own bag in trash bags, and disappear. Someone moved it. Someone kept it. And then, a year and a half after she vanished, someone decided to put it in the ground. But it was what investigators found inside the bag that turned an unsolved disappearance into something stranger. Among her things was a library book, a Dr. Seuss book from her school. And according to the records, Asha had never checked it out. The bag was full of small wrong notes. The library book she never borrowed. A New Kids on the Block t-shirt that her family says was not hers. Things that belonged to a child mixed with things that did not belong to this child, as if her bag had passed through someone else's hands and come back changed, and the burial itself was a message of its own. You do not wrap a bag in 2 trash bags and bury it by accident. That is someone trying to make evidence disappear carefully, deliberately. A year and a half after the world had supposedly moved on, investigators sent everything to the FBI lab at Quantico. The bag, the clothing, the book. Every surface, anything that might carry a trace of whoever had handled it. In 2001, the science could only take them so far. So the evidence went into storage, and the case went cold. For years, the bag sat in a lab holding on to whatever it knew. It would take the better part of 2 decades and a different kind of test before that bag finally started to talk. And when it did, it pointed somewhere no one expected. While the evidence waited, the family lived in the gap she left behind. Every February 14th, while the rest of the country traded Valentines, Harold and Jaquilla Degree marked another year without their daughter. They held vigils. They kept her room. They kept her face in the news so the world would not be allowed to forget her. Her brother O'Brien grew up. The other kids in her class grew up, graduated, had children of their own. Asha stayed 9. Frozen in a school photograph, smiling at a camera, one ordinary afternoon before any of this began. The reward money grew to $25,000. Then more, tips came in by the hundreds, then the thousands, and each one was chased down to nothing. The FBI never closed the file. In 2017, agents went back out to that highway and recreated the exact conditions of the night she vanished. Same date, same hour, same darkness, same cold, trying to see what she might have seen. Because all along, in the back of every file, sat one piece of information the public had not been told. A description of a car. In 2016, on National Missing Children's Day, the FBI finally said it out loud. Someone that night may have seen Asha get into a car on Highway 18, not far from where the truck drivers last saw her running. And they had a description. A dark green car, an early 1970s model, a Lincoln Mark IV or a Ford Thunderbird, with rust around the wheel wells. An old car, even back in 2000, the kind of car a witness would remember. Think about what that single detail does to the story. A scared child runs from a stranger's headlights into the woods, and then, somehow, ends up inside a car, which means at some point that night, she stopped running and got in. The Bureau put out the image of that green car and asked the country to remember it. Who owned a car like that in Cleveland County in 2000? Who had one and then quietly got rid of it? For another 8 years, that question hung in the air with no answer. And then, in the fall of 2024, the FBI stopped asking the public and started knocking on doors. Over 2 days in September of 2024, federal agents and state investigators executed a series of search warrants in Cleveland County, North Carolina. They searched homes, they seized computers, phones, and hard drives. And on one property, they towed away an old green car. What the warrants revealed changed the shape of the case. For the first time, investigators wrote that they now believe Asha Degree was killed and that her body was hidden. After 24 years, this was no longer just a missing child case. On paper, it was a homicide, and the warrants laid out why. According to court documents, modern DNA testing of the items from that buried backpack tied 2 people to it. One was a man who had died back in 2004. The other was a woman from a local family. Here is where every word has to be careful, and we are going to be careful. The family named in those warrants, the Dedman family, has not been charged with anything. Through their lawyers, they have publicly denied any involvement and denied any knowledge of what happened to Asha. As of today, no one has been arrested, no one has been charged. What the documents allege is a forensic link between a buried backpack and a hair on a child's undershirt. What they do not contain, even now, is the one thing this family has wanted for 26 years, Asha herself. Through 2025, the pressure kept building. More warrants, more phones seized. This time over the possibility that someone had tried to obstruct the investigation. Court filings describe text messages and an account of a statement one relative allegedly made about Asha. We are not going to repeat that statement as fact, because it is not a fact. It is an unproven allegation in a warrant, contested and never tested in any courtroom. What is real is the reward. It climbed to $75,000. Then the governor added more, and by the fall of 2025, it stood at $100,000 for information that leads to an arrest and a conviction. And what is also real is everything that is still missing. No arrest, no charge, no conviction, and after 26 years, no Asha. The case is worked today as a homicide, but there has never been a body, never been a grave, never been a place for her family to go. Which leaves us back where we started. A careful little girl, afraid of the dark, who packed a bag in the middle of the night and walked into a storm, who ran from the one person who tried to help her, who got into a car she should never have gotten into. Somebody told her where to go that night. Somebody was waiting on that road. And somewhere in Cleveland County, somebody still knows exactly what happened to Asha Degree and has chosen for 26 years to say nothing at all.